It's another week.
Another week.
It's another week. It means we got to do another show. I feel like phoning this one in. Do you feel like phoning this one in?
No, we have too much fun.
We have too much fun when we don't phone it in. Okay, all right. It's fine. But I do think that perhaps today, as we record this, we should do. I know there's a lot of effort we could put in, but I feel like we need the minimum viable podcast.
Ooh,
today.
The MVP.
The minimum viable podcast that we're going to do today. And that is a pun, as you no doubt saw in the title of this episode of Zero to Traction, a podcast about how first-time founders create companies at scale, that we are calling the Minimum Viable Please edition of the podcast. I'm one of your regular co-hosts, JDM, aka Josh David Miller, here with my other regular co-host, Cameron Loft. Cameron, how are you today?
Doing well. Good to be back in the studio together, so not from across the region. So I'm excited for our conversation.
Definitely a minimum viable studio as far as studios are concerned. You can tell from the sound treatment on the walls, the egg crates that Cameron's got everywhere.
Yes.
It's good. It's good for that. We are also joined, as we have been lately, by our recurring co-host, Cass. Cass, welcome. Cass says that they are ready for an MVP roast and toast, and that is because today we're going to play a game.
Ooh, another one.
We're going to play another game. We're going to have a little fun. So this one here is going to be a similar format to kind of the ones we've done recently. They've done well. People seem to be liking them. I honestly found it pretty fun to do these games with you. So this one is the minimum viable please game. And so the way it works is the way we've designed it is that Cass is going to give us a startup stage or a learning goal, something to kind of contextualize it, and then also give us an MVP that the startup is either already built or is planning to build. And then Cameron and I are going to discuss, is it viable? Is it minimum? Is it valuable for what they want to learn? And is it overbaked? Is it, undervalidated monstrosity, this overbaked contraption? Or is it a good way to go about learning? And of course, along the way, we'll, try to pivot that MVP into something that's a little bit better. So Cass is just going to play their usual role as provocateur and a little MVP snitch today. Sound good?
Sounds like a plan.
It's going to be a fun game. We spent a lot of time when we were in office hours last week. Talking MVPs. We got tons of questions on MVP. So if you haven't check that out, Traction Labs does some office hours every Friday. We're at Connect Labs in person here in Sacramento. But you can also join the live stream on the Traction Lab Venture Accelerator page on LinkedIn. We'll put a link to that in the show notes or on Substack. So follow us around there, and you can join office hours live. But we figured let's do a whole episode on it. Let's dive into some specifics. Let's talk MVPs.
I'm excited.
Let's
do it.
You ready?
Let's get into the game.
I did the whole intro, so I'm gonna let you kick the first one off, but I'll read what Cass gave us here. So first MVP, the startup stage is they just finished customer discovery interviews. There's no working product yet. Their learning goal is they want to know if people will actually pay for the thing that they've conceived. And the MVP is they built a fully functional freemium mobile app with 3 core features: user onboarding, Stripe integration, and a referral program. And they're giving it away for free to, quote, see what users do. And with that, I'm feeling pretty triggered. So I'm going to kick it over to you to get started while I chug this cold brew in an effort to calm myself the fuck down.
All right, well, let's do it. So the first thing, just recognizing where this venture is in the life cycle. So they just finished some customer discovery. So really might be even too early to be thinking about jumping into what the MVP is at the stage. Maybe you're even thinking about getting an initial prototype started just to get some continual learning. So I think that's just like the first thing that comes to mind is like an MVP even the right step to be going out and actually testing, or is it actually, testing the different offerings in the market, or creating a small prototype to get that in the hands and see maybe in a clickable way what that would look like. And so from the, learning goal of, what will the people or customers actually be willing to pay for this? I think that's somewhat of an interesting question. I think part of it should be more focused on, have you actually identified the right solution for the market? So I think at that stage, if you're just finishing customer discovery, you hopefully have started to validate or understand at least what their pain points are. Now you need to start to explore what potential solutions that would actually be. And so I would actually recommend creating a number of different prototypes that are like really lean fashion of just like seeing if it actually would solve that particular pain point for the customer. And then, if they're actually setting out to build this MVP, which seems like a lot of investment of time, money, and resources, it's definitely over engineered because there's a lot of assumptions baked into what they're designing in this MVP to ultimately solve those particular problems, right? They have some validation potentially in this customer discovery process. It was intentional. It said discovery, not customer validation. So making that distinction here as well. But, as they're going to actually test this, if this were what they've already made the investment, sometimes they've already built it and they've, went back to do the discovery process. What comes to mind for me is that, it's not a great experiment to just say, to see what they do with it, right? And so is it to actually see that you deliver the value? So is that like helping them save, money? Is that helping them, gain an increase in performance? Or are you providing them the customizability they wanted? Like, what is it that you had promised them to ultimately engage in this component of things? So you're testing that value, which then hopefully you can then capture back. But part of where we're looking at in terms of, where you're putting this offer out there for them to actually see what they're willing to pay. There's other ways to even test that before building it and seeing if they get value was, could you put that on your landing page for when they sign up for the demo or sign up for the freemium, that they know what a potential price point is in the future. And so that's a signal that they're willing to pay X for it versus, yeah, let's do a free demo within no time or, future price point out there. So that's kind of where my brain dump went for this first one, but would love to hear your thoughts.
I mean, I think you covered pretty much everything that I would say, right? So like that, just to summarize, I'm just gonna summarize what you said, because it's like you had all the red flags in there. So like the one was like you want to learn about whether people will pay for it by giving it away for free. That's like, there's just like fundamentally, you're not even measuring the thing that you said you wanted to learn. So there's that. Second is, I agree, like you went from customer discovery to sales and you're missing the validation step. So I think that that's important in there as well. And I also agree that there's a lot of other ways to go about testing pricing as opposed to like trying to build it and actually sell the thing. And so I would just like bubble up to the reminder that the process that we're following is customer discovery, customer validation, customer creation, company building, right? The 4 steps to the epiphany, if you will. And so the first one is customer discovery. Let's discover if there's a problem and an appetite for a solution, but then we need to validate what the solution is. And then we go about the process of creating demand. And so the sales don't have to come really early in that process. In fact, they probably shouldn't for all the reasons that you just outlined. So I don't have anything else to add. I think that's great. Yeah, I'm gonna tell Cass that. All right, we're just gonna say Cameron nailed it. Give us another, please. What you got? The suspense. All right. Cass says, oh, hell yes. Cameron came in hot like a lean canvas on fire. Love to see it. Let's roll into number 2. I don't know what that means, but thanks, Cass, for the colorful commentary. Startup stage. They've identified a narrow niche, independent gym owners who struggle to manage memberships and payments. This is sort of ironic considering our agenda today. The learning goal, will they switch from the tool they're already using, i.e. is the pain strong enough to cause a switch? An MVP, they built a beautifully designed web app with calendar management, billing integration, members, CRM, and an admin dashboard offering a 30-day free trial and running Facebook ads to get gym owners in. All right, so you got a niche, that's great, but will they switch from the tool they're already using? Is the pain strong to cause a switch? It sounds like the MVP that they're trying for here is like, well, let's see if we can get them to switch, right? And so like, well, we're gonna do this ad campaign on Facebook, we're gonna drive traffic, and then once we drive the traffic in, then at that point we can see if we get them to convert. So we're actually going to see if they do it. And I actually I think that at some point that's what you have to do. But if you're really just trying to figure out, is the pain strong enough to warrant a switch, I think that there are way easier ways to do that. And so one, instead of building this beautifully designed web app with all this stuff built in, I would actually just build a rapid prototype. And then you can ask them to talk about what the experience is like with the current tool and have them rate that, on a scale from 1 to 10, where like 1 is, I don't know, checking your email, right? And 10 is the birth of your first child or something like that. And ask them to rank their experience with the current solution. Go through the new one just the rapid prototype, and then have them rate that on the exact same scale. And if you're not getting at least a 3-point difference between those two ratings, nobody's going to switch. It's not enough to overcome switching costs, which means that there's like a couple of things that you can get from that 3-point difference. So one is that if they're already rated like a 6, or something like that, you have to really effing crush it just to get anybody to switch, because the only, like, if you figure 6 + 3 is 9, I mean, you have to get a 9 or a 10. Like, that's how good you have to be to overcome switching costs for something that's just a 6. And like, that is like really interesting and impactful and insightful. But it also tells you what the opportunities are. If you're getting somebody who's like, well, this is like, I have to use this app because they tell me to, and I'm using it and it's fine, it gets the job done, it's like a 2, and it's that kind of thing. If you're in that range, then you don't have to deliver a 9 to get people to switch. And that's where this like old school idea of MVPs can come in, because the pain is so big. And like that they're going to switch, just early adopters at least will switch just to get that smaller increase of it, even though you're going from a 2 to a 6 or something like that. And that's where a lot of people start to object and say, well, I'm only building a 6, I want to build a 10. And a 10 can come eventually, but you don't need it yet to start validating, is there even a there? You can get from a 6 to a 10, right? But if you can get delivered to a 6 and get people to convert at a 6, right, then it's only up from there. And you've also, again, closed a lot of the gap, so that whoever comes in next is going to have to be even higher than that. Is going to have to get that elusive 9 or 10 to try to get that to work. So that's kind of what came to mind for me.
Yeah. So I think, one of the words that comes to mind, and we've used it in the past, was like, particularly when it comes to switching, is like the inertia they're fighting, right? So it's like, one, the like time to switch everything. Is there a lot of data they're going to need to ultimately import or engage, right? And so it's like that is all fighting against you, even if the like offering is like on par or subpar. Again, that switching cost of the time and energy, like, is it really worth it? So you're going to have a lot more pain tied to it. The one thing that kind of comes to mind is there seems to be a lot of features built into this kind of initial MVP, and I'd really venture to see, like, what is the core value that you're trying to derive out of this? And so it's like, do you need all of them to be on the MVP, or is there like 1 or 2 of these that are core in driving the core benefit or outcome that you've offered to your customer out in the market? So it's like, it's really tying to, it was like, oh, well, like, some of these are great. Maybe you're adding them on because they're part of the initial solution that they're already using. So you feel like you have to do that, versus really where they're having the core pain point are actually in these 1 to 2 features. And so you actually can level up the game by knocking those out of the park. And so you put more intentional energy into those. So
that's a really good point. And like, rapid prototyping can really clarify that, because you can't rapid prototype calendar management, billing integration, member CRM, admin dashboard. So you have to like pick what the critical path is there, where that MOGV is, the moment of greatest value, is in that process. MOGV, the moment of greatest value is in that process. And one of the ways that I see this stage company end up with all this stuff in an MVP is because when they're doing customer discovery, customer interviews, they've sort of found people don't love the existing solution and everybody has a different problem with it. And so like, well, we'll just improve all of these things and just create a better product that encompasses all this. And the problem is you're actually not solving any problem worth solving. You're solving a bunch of problems that aren't worth solving. And they're thinking like in aggregate that will get everybody to convert. And in reality, it won't get anybody to convert. So like doing the rapid prototype can really test that as well.
Yeah, there's a number of tests. We actually have the testing business ideas here next to us, but one of the ones I think it's called like feature boat or something like that, or basically you give them an allocated budget to help them identify which ones would be the most impactful in delivering value to them. And so highly recommend checking that out, as well as many of the, I think we probably talked about experimenting hundreds of times on the podcast and Traction Lab as well. So check out some of those resources that help you kind of identify some tangible ways to actually go about testing that.
All right. No. Rapid prototyping is the way to go, Cass. Way overbuilt. Let's do a third.
This is where it'd be perfect timing for like a sponsor to come in and say, hey,
Not that we, are saying that we, need a sponsor, but if you do want to sponsor the Zero to Traction podcast, that is an option. That is an option. We can be one of those companies like slinging mud water and
the next productivity app for.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's insist that this one is extra spicy. All right, startup stage, 3 co-founders, no technical lead. One's a designer, one's a former teacher, and one's really into AI. This is their first startup. Their goal is, will teachers trust an AI to give students feedback on writing assignments? They want to understand trust, adoption, and workflow fit. The MVP, they spent 2 months building a GPT-powered grading assistant as a Chrome extension that integrates directly into Google Classroom. It's fully functional with rubric import, comment generation, and grading exports. They're doing demos for school admins next week. Okay.
You take
well, I actually see a really big problem with this, and it's not with the just necessarily like the MVP versus non-MVP aspect like we've been talking about. I have that problem too.
Yeah.
But it's actually that like you want to know if they're going to trust AI, and we're starting with something that is inherently low trust, a Chrome extension that directly integrates into something they're using and has full access to all of this like stuff. Like we're starting with something that seems like a big lift, whether or not the tool is AI. And so like having to get that level of trust for something like this actually seems to be really problematic. If you want to know if they're going to trust AI, like I want to know what is it about AI that they feel is not trustworthy. Is it a data privacy concern? Is it a regulatory concern? Is it an accuracy concern? Those are 3 different ways. And there's probably more than that, but like those are 3 completely different ways to not trust AI to do its job. And so, or to not trust AI in this process. And all 3 of those are going to be, those are what we call fears, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, then like the needs, wants, fears way of doing value proposition design, like those are fears. And so fears are overcome by experience. And so we've created fundamentally an experience here that does not assuage any of those fears. And so then I really have the question about like, what is the experience? What would the experience look like for each of those? If the experience is privacy, then that we can actually probably uncover largely through customer interviews, like where that sits. And then we can figure out what are the experiences that we can deliver that overcome that. Is there a particular regulatory guarantee that they're looking for? Is there, like, I imagine teachers aren't this way, but if you're in like corporate, they're looking for, well, are you SOC 2 compliant, or are you HIPAA compliant, or there's some specific standard that they want you to meet. And so then you can test just through customer interviews and that kind of thing, whether or not that, just if you met it, you don't have to meet their standard now, but if you met the requirement, would that be enough for them? But if it's actually, is this accurate or not, building this whole thing that integrates into Google Classroom isn't really enough. Like if you have your own AI model or whatever that you're using, just Wizard of Oz that shit and actually just throw data at it and give the results back and see if this is something that they would use. Or alternatively, if you're not having your own, if it's just basic prompt engineering and you're kind of faking it for now anyway, then that's fine too. Throw it into ChatGPT or whatever you're using with your custom prompts and like make that work. So those are my 2 sort of answers to that without actually really addressing the MVP part head on, because I actually think it's the less interesting part of this, even though we're doing MVP review.
Yeah, well, I think you nailed that there. I guess where my mind goes is as we're thinking of kind of like, you brought in the needs, wants, and fears, and the element of trust definitely elicits the fears. And so, I guess one of the components is like, as you're positioning this to the market, what are some of the needs and like the outcome that you're ultimately trying to achieve with them? So is it like, okay, the needs just they need, maybe they have growing class sizes, so they need to be able to, they need to give feedback to more students than they usually do. And so the want is to maintain a level of quality while still doing that at scale or something like that. And so they have that peace of mind or something as that kind of core want or outcome that they're seeking. And so how it, I guess as that ties into the MVP, like what are some of those fundamental feature sets that ultimately deliver that particular value? And I think the like feedback is pretty broad as well. Is that like technical feedback, or is that feedback on like, hey, your thought process or those types of things? So what particularly in the feedback, is it actually like feedback on how to grade the written assignments, right? And so understanding what that trust relies on, particularly, is that tied to a rubric, or is that just something like as you're reading someone's reflection, you're like giving them feedback on like, here's some things that you might go do, going forward on that reflection. So I think part of that is contextualizing to the type of class and what the ultimate feedback you're like trying to achieve is.
Totally. 100%. Triple underline. All right, Cass added.
That was a spice one.
There was a spice one, yeah. Cass added, is it AI overkill with a side of FERPA violation, which, if you know, FERPA, I believe it stands for the Federal Education Records Protection Act, which is like the education equivalent of HIPAA. So I don't know why Cass just assumed we'd all know what FERPA is, but for those of you in the ed tech space, and we know some founders in that space, they know FERPA. Okay, yes, it is in fact AI overkill with the side of FERPA violation is kind of what I'm thinking there too. Man, this is fun. I wish we had time to do a few more, but unfortunately we're a little short on time today.
Yeah.
So I think we'll have to pivot off of that, but of course it wouldn't be Zero to Tracks without a couple of frivolous thoughts. Do you got one, or you want me to go?
I need a second.
Okay. So I'll go. So I've got one here. So this is a little. I think I've talked to you about this before, but it's like this is the saga that keeps like leveling up. So somehow, like actually, I know exactly how it happened. I was gonna say somehow. No, I know how it happened. But my toddler won't eat regular yogurt anymore. My toddler will only eat bougie yogurt. Like the most bougie. So no, well, it's so I used to I've like been a yogurt snob, so I used to really love like these Tillamook yogurts, which were great. And then I switched to Clover ones, because the Clover ones, they have this cream on top one that I thought was just like the shit. Basically, it tastes like dessert. I love, even though doesn't have more sugar than the other ones. It's just, but I thought it was really good. So it's the Clover ones. My wife didn't love those too much, so she started buying these La Fermière ones, they come in this like ceramic jar as opposed to a plastic container. Yeah. So she started buying these, and then Liam, my toddler, started getting kind of sick of the yogurt that we would be feeding him a can of eggs. So like yogurt is a common breakfast for us, yogurt and fruit. And so he was, but he wasn't eating his it was plain yogurt with fruit. He wasn't eating anymore. And but he always wants what mom is eating. And she was eating her bougie yogurt. And so he asked to try it, try it. Like try it. And so she let him to have some. And now he can't, like, if either one of us are eating yogurt, he wants some of our yogurt. So we have to split this, like, it's like a $3.50 yogurt. Like, it's a ridiculously expensive yogurt that we have to split with a 1-year-old who should not know the difference. But we tried taking his yogurt in there. No, I put his yogurt, his like plain yogurt with fruit, put it in the jar, and then like literally took a bite and then gave it to him. He took the bite. And then you could tell the look on his face. He's like, it's like, what the F is this? Like, this is not.
It's not the same.
I know what goes in that jar, and that is not what goes in that jar. So he literally will not eat regular yogurt anymore, but will eat the bougie yogurt all day long. And so the other day I went back and bought some of my Tillamook yogurts. And because they're a lot cheaper, like half the price. They're still expensive because like $1.50 a yogurt, which is like, that's a lot for a yogurt, right? For sure. But it's like, I'm gonna buy these Tillamook. I used to love these, and so I bought one. I was eating it, and I had the La Fermière, not every day, but like that was the only yogurt I've really had for a while. Took a bite of it, and I'm like, this is not La Fermière. This is not the $3 bougie yogurt. And so he may get it from me, but now my 1-year-old will only and exclusively eat bougie yogurt that comes from France in a ceramic jar.
Oh wow. Well, I don't have to deal with that. I guess it makes me think of for my frivolous thought, so Rory, our pup, she's a really fast eater, and so we've since we've been doing a remodel, we've been staying at Katie's grandma's house, and she loves like getting like different toys. But she found this one where you like put it's like a, I don't know, like a little kind of, I don't know, what comes to mind is like a dreidel or like bobblehead type thing, and you put the food in there, but the dog has to like swat and play with it to get the food to come out. And so we've slowed down her eating by making her play with the games and all of that good stuff. So we also got one of those ones where it's like almost like a towel thing, and all the food gets hidden under it. So they have to like, bury their nose and everything. So it's kind of fun to see her like have to like really work for her food, I guess.
Do you get out the stopwatch and like assess her progress all the time?
No, but it definitely takes a lot longer. So, but
it is Rory like a Gilmore Girls reference?
No, we just
like
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Right? All right.
And most people ask that, so I've never even seen the show. So.
Deb really likes the show, so I'm familiar with it, and I saw a few episodes growing up. But all right, well, that takes us to the end of Zero to Traction. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're a little late for our next conversation, so I'm going to close things out sort of rapidly. Like, subscribe wherever you like, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Tell a friend about Zero to Traction. It really helps us out. Just think of a friend right now in your head, a friend in the startup space. You got a name in your head. I know you do. Right now, I know you're on your phone. You're listening to this thing. Just hit that little share button. Send it right to that friend and say, hey, check out Zero to Traction. I think you'll like it. Really appreciate us. All right, Cameron, thanks for joining as always. Boom. All right, we will see you guys
Bye.
next week.